Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money. In this video, I will tell you all about the coastal cities of Montenegro, including Bar, Kotor, Petrovac, Budva, and I'll also talk briefly about Podgorica and Lake Skadar. In the last video, I shared about the general pros and cons of visiting Montenegro, but this time I want to cover the specifics of each coastal area because it will help you determine what places are best for you to visit based on your personal preferences. If you are new here, I have created this channel to help you learn about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence. I have traveled the world, both solo and duo. I paid off a house in Spain, plus I have worked smarter and harder to help me move toward financial independence. I believe that the road to financial freedom can and should be fun. I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on this journey, no matter where you are starting from. If you watched my last video, you'll know that Montenegro is a beautiful Eastern European country on the Adriatic Sea between Croatia and Albania. I would highly recommend it as a place to visit, especially if you are a lover of nature and the outdoors. My time there was mostly spent in the coastal region. We stayed in the city of Bar, which is central on the coast and makes it easy to access other cities. Bar had a lot of cheap accommodation options, and though we had a gorgeous view of the sea, there were much more beautiful locations on the coast. However, Bar was not very touristy, which I really prefer. I certainly felt like we were able to learn how to live like locals in Bar. Bar covers a long stretch of the seaside, so we often did our remote work from many of the beach restaurants and cafes, which meant enjoying sunsets at the end of each workday. For regular daily life, it was a very enjoyable area. From Bar, we could easily drive or take a bus to a neighboring coastal city for the day, both north and south. Bar has about 50,000 people in the entire municipality, so the city is a decent size. They have a lot of great restaurants and cafes, and we found plenty of vegetarian options when going out to eat. We were also able to shop at stores that sold brands like Nike and Superdry, and it was all authentic. Bar is also the location of the church that was dedicated to Saint John Vladimir that I mentioned in the previous video, which I believe is worth a visit. Overall, not a bad place to stay. Bar has an old city that is a bit outside of the main area. We walked there, though it took us a while. The old city is a quaint and beautiful little town to walk through, with restaurants and gift shops. But what you really want to see are the ruins, which is where all of the history lies. There is even a view of the Adriatic Sea. Most of our coastal visits took us to the north, but one day we traveled south to the lesser known coastal city of Ulcinj, which was stunning to walk through. Though it was beautiful, it didn't seem to be overly touristy, which again is always my preference. I would recommend walking around the old town, which has breathtaking views. This would also be a place I would consider staying long term if I was visiting Montenegro for a month or more. Back to the north, we spent a day in each of the cities of Petrovac, Budva, and Kotor. Kotor is the most touristy, and for a reason. If you've heard of any place in Montenegro, this would likely be it. It is a popular port for cruise ships, so you can imagine the amount of tourists walking around. It should definitely be on your list to visit, but I don't think I would enjoy staying there for long periods of time. Maybe a long weekend would be nice, but it's just too many tourists for my taste. But let's talk about why it's amazing. Kotor is a city on the Bay of Kotor and has one of the best preserved medieval towns in the Adriatic. What you must do if you visit is hike up to the San Giovanni Fortress. This is by far one of the most stunning hikes I have ever been on. The view is beautiful and just gets better as you climb to the top. The hike is well paved, so a beginner could probably do it, but it does take about an hour to get to the top. I'm sure Kotor has a lot more to offer, but we only did a single day there, and if you are in Montenegro, I would recommend at least a day trip. Budva is a seaside town not too far from Kotor. Budva is still touristy, but not to the degree of Kotor. Budva is well known for its medieval walled city that is 2,500 years old, making it one of the oldest settlements on the Adriatic coast. We enjoyed walking along the coastal areas, visiting the old town, and enjoyed a lovely dinner on the seaside. It was a bit more pricey than most places we visited in Montenegro, but that was due to it being such a popular tourist destination. Now, I want to tell you about one of my favorite places that I've ever visited. A bit further south of Budva lies a hidden gem of a town called Petrovac. It is basically a resort town, but isn't nearly as touristy as Budva. There was just a beauty to it that was accompanied by a calm that I can't quite describe. There is a nice little hike up from the main area that takes you along the coast and through a cave. The prices here were much more reasonable for food and drink and had an abundance of options. This is one of my favorite towns that I have visited and would probably be my #1 place to stay long term for ease of daily life and avoiding large crowds. The views were simply stunning. One day near the port area, a kind stranger approached us and said, "We need 2 more people for our boat tour. Instead of $10, it will only be $5. This was perfect for us. They took us on a small boat out to a tiny little island with a church on it that sits right off the coast. We explored there, and then they took us around the caved area of the coast. I believe the whole little trip was about an hour, which isn't bad for $5. Overall, I'd give the coastal region of Montenegro a 10 out of 10. It is beautiful and worth visiting for anyone who enjoys travel. Now, I also want to mention a couple of places that we visited inland. We flew to a city called Podgorica, and I wish we had spent more time there. It is the largest city in Montenegro and is the capital of the country. Podgorica had a really cool vibe to it and a nice restaurant scene, especially as a vegetarian. Another inland trip just before leaving Montenegro took us to Lake Skadar, and wow, what a stunning outdoor adventure. There we went kayaking and driving through the national park. Lake Skadar is on the border of Albania and Montenegro and covers an area up to 200 square miles. The lake is home to over 270 species of birds. Legend has it that the lake was created by tears of a pixie, and though it may sound crazy, it is truly a magical place. Montenegro is a place I intend to visit again and again. If you've traveled much, maybe you're like me and there are certain places that you've been to that you just long for. Petrovac and Lake Skadar are some of those places for me. Now, if you want to learn about the affordability of Montenegro, prices of things like data and car rentals, and more pros and cons of visiting, you should definitely check out my last video. Montenegro has a lot more to offer that I didn't even cover because in the month I spent there, I barely scratched the surface of all the natural beauty it has to offer. There are more national parks and beautiful places inland, mountains to climb, forests to see. Definitely a wonderful place for an outdoor adventure. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to subscribe and join me for more videos about how to travel and work toward financial independence at the same time. Of course, COVID threw us all a curveball, and so in the next video, I'm going to talk about how I've made use of this time during the pandemic to really make a big financial difference. I had already been traveling for cheap while I worked, but COVID really made me focus in on the FIRE movement and how this time of being stuck in one place could end up really making all of my travel dreams come true in the future. I've been working hard, and I'll tell you all about it in the next video. Don't forget to press the like button, and I'll see you next time. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.